show you the jacket.
Next.
You through 4 p.m. We certainly hope that you're having a great day and that you've had a great week. There is a lot to get to in this hour. I'm going to line things up, though, after we get to our first live event that's already in progress right now. Governor Pritzker is attending the WNBA All-Star Game Host Committee launch. Yes, it's coming back here to the United Center in July. It will be for a second time, so let's listen in. Okay, we've been listening in there again to the WNBA All-Star Game host committee launch. Once again, it is coming back to Chicago. We'll be at the United Center in July. Really excited to have it back here in our area. And the governor, Governor Pritzker, was just talking about how this is about more than just the game and really a whole weekend experience. It will mean jobs, economic opportunities. He also talked about how this really does help to inspire the next generation of athletes, and specifically women athletes. And he gave a shout out to Babes, which is a new sports bar in Logan Square. We've had them on our air here. It's women owned, and they exclusively play women's sports in their sports bar there. So new concept, and they're doing well, and got a shout out today as we get ready for this major event coming up this summer that will highlight women's sports. Now, let me tell you about a few other things that you can expect in this first hour together. If you could not tell by my attire today, we are locked into Bears Mania around here. We are loving the positivity, the vibes that are flowing, and we are all collectively waiting, hoping, praying, crossing fingers, toes, whatever you can do, that we will have another Bears win on Sunday. Now, we're a hot team right now, and we're on a magical run, and that means everyone's clamoring to have a say in where the team calls home over the years to come. Will it be the city of Chicago? If you were with us earlier this week, then you know that we talked to the folks in Arlington Heights saying, don't forget about us. And why are these, why are their hearts possibly beating a little bit faster as we've been talking about the cardiac bears, and we've talked about the stadium controversy heating up? Well, because Indiana is rolling out the red carpet to welcome the team to their state. So I'm going to be talking with the CEO of the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau about Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority that the governor there, Governor Braun, just announced. Also, the Rams will certainly have a chance of having a change of pace this weekend, coming here to Chicago with our weekend weather being in full winter mode. But really, our weather has been all over the place over the last few weeks. We've had rain, snow, 20s, 50s, below zero. Round and round we have gone. And the roads, while they can't speak, they are telling a story. Who has not dodged or maybe had the unfortunate experience of not being able to dodge a pothole or two in time? The Chicago Department of Transportation will be here to weigh in on their work. This week also, we watched 4 NASA astronauts come back from the ISS about a month early due to unforeseen circumstances. They didn't give us any details about which astronaut was having issues or what the actual problem was, and we're certainly hoping that they're doing okay by now. But now NASA has plans to return humans to deep space next month, literally in just a few weeks here. They are targeting February 6th for the launch of Artemis 2. And I can't wait to chat with the lunar science lead of the 10-day crewed mission that will carry astronauts around the moon for the first time in nearly more than 50 years. So lots to come. We're going to move into our first conversation, though, the scandal that has rocked the college sports world this week. Federal prosecutors charging 20 people on Thursday, including 15 former college basketball players, and what they called a betting scheme to rig NCAA and Chinese Basketball Association games. Scott Bernstein from the Gangster Report podcast is back here on the show because the last time you were here when NBA players were facing, or were the face of this gambling controversy, you said that was the tip of the iceberg and it would soon tear through the NCAA, and now here we are. So let's get your initial reaction to these federal charges announced this week.
I expected this. As you said, when I came on with you back in the fall, I said that it was the tip of the iceberg and we were going to have a lot more indictments. I think there are more indictments to still come, but the one common factor through this whole thing is Shane Hennon. He's the mastermind, and he was indicted for being the mastermind in the NBA scandal, and now he's been indicted for being the mastermind of the NCAA point shaving scandal, and he's most likely cooperating.
So
they have the guy that got caught with his hands in the cookie jar. They have him telling the prosecutors all about how he made the cookies.
So there's a common thread here. You're saying, although no convictions have come yet, so we've got to assume everyone is innocent until proven guilty.
He's been accused.
He has been accused twice now. So we used to have scandals like this, and many people thought that NIL would make that a thing of the past. But of the defendants this time around, 15 played basketball for Division I NCAA schools as recently as the 2024-2025 season. So what does that say about us instituting NIL finally?
Well, this was a scheme that was implemented specifically to circumvent NIL. That's why they weren't focusing on players at top 10, top 20 universities. You didn't see people at Duke or Kentucky or any of the blue blood programs that were participating. The alleged conspirators were focusing on small Division I schools where players weren't getting NIL. You know, the players at for people in Illinois, you know, there's a big difference between somebody that's starting in the backcourt for the Illini in Champaign, and then somebody starting for NIU or SIU or UC or University of Illinois Chicago. Those smaller programs, while they're Division I, they don't get the NIL attention that the big schools get. So players would be more prone to allegedly take payoffs to fix games. So they were aware, the alleged conspirators were aware of how NIL could play a role in this, and they tailored their alleged conspiracy to avoid it.
That is a really interesting aspect of it because, money is getting thrown all the time at the big schools, the big players. But we have federal prosecutors say that 3 former DePaul University basketball players, 1 former Chicago Bulls player are part of these allegations here with this betting scheme. So you're right, not U of I, but we're seeing DePaul.
Right, smaller schools where there's less NIL money. And frankly, this was also intentional on the alleged conspirators, less attention overall. People, the NCAA, the people that consume sports, the people that are monitoring illegal activity, they're not spending as much time paying attention to the DePauls and the smaller schools. You know, I'm from Detroit. Eastern Michigan is pulled into this, so that's the local school that I can have a point of reference for. But the regulators aren't paying as much attention to those schools. They're not on television as much. They're not getting as much media hoopla. So they really fly under the radar, both in terms of the players that were being allegedly tapped to do this, and the universities and the programs themselves.
Yeah, and those players want the money thrown at them, want to be able to access the money just like the larger players from the larger schools.
It's really short-term thinking, though, for somebody, it just my editorializing right here, for somebody that has a potential to play pro basketball, you have a chance to make a lot more money going forward than you do taking 10 to 20,000. That's what the numbers were here. Alleged bribes were 10 to 25,000.
Yeah.
Wherever you come from, there are a ton of players in the NBA that don't come from blue blood programs.
Very
that come
good point.
from DePaul. So you have a chance to make millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and you're throwing it away potentially for a $20,000 payout.
So let me ask you, just on a final note here, where you see this going, because you said you still don't feel like it's the end.
No, I think there's going to be more indictments, more players. And the thing that's kind of getting overlooked a little bit because it hasn't been officially announced, but all of the circumstantial evidence here points to the mastermind himself, the alleged mastermind himself, Shane Hennon, who's a 40-year-old man who's a Pittsburgh native, who's now living in Las Vegas, based on comments that his own attorney has made, it appears that he's the one that's giving the government all this information, that the case is being built around information provided to them by the person that quarterbacked the entire conspiracy. So we should see how that plays out.
Yikes, yikes, yikes. Okay, so we're going to be calling you back if
do.
more of your predictions come true.
Please do.
Okay, thank you so much for your time today. We certainly appreciate it. You have a good weekend. All right, we're going to move to our next discussion here. We are just a few weeks away from the next launch for NASA. They are preparing to roll out the Artemis 2 moon rocket to the launch pad here. This is going to be at the Kennedy Space Center. So they'll be rolling it out on January 17th. They expect to be able to launch 4 astronauts around the moon as early as February 6th. And as they get ready for that day, the anticipation is building, of course, especially for those who watch these things so closely. And I want to go ahead and bring in now Artemis 2 lunar science lead, Dr. Kelsey Young, to talk a little bit more about the mission and the week that it has been. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So let me start with this week before we literally launch into what's next. This week has been particularly maybe filled with goodwill around the globe, watching these astronauts come back home unexpectedly, if you will, and early.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was really exciting to see the 4 of them come out of the Dragon capsule after they splashed down safely, while at the same time we're gearing up for rolling the vehicle out for the Artemis 2 launch tomorrow.
Does it cause any, I don't know, does it cause you all to have to go through any extra hoops, though, having just done that? And again, when you build your timeline, you're not expecting the 4 astronauts to have to come home this week.
The answer is NASA is fully equipped to handle these different priorities, of course. I mean, we first and foremost want to protect our crew members. And so we've been able to, get them home safely while also maintaining our schedule for rollout tomorrow.
Okay, so tomorrow is the big day, the start of big things to come. Tell me what will happen tomorrow.
Tomorrow is an exciting day. It's where we'll see over the course of about 12 hours the Integrity spacecraft, which is the Orion vehicle that will fly for astronauts around the lunar far side, roll out to the pad. So it'll be about 12 hours to go a few miles. And at the end of that journey, we'll be a lot closer to launching our crew in a couple weeks.
And in a couple of weeks, what will that look like? And what is the preparation in between?
There's a lot to do. So the first launch window that is available to us starts February 6th. We won't know the exact launch date until the vehicle goes through a lot of checks over the next few weeks. But those few weeks are full of every team who's supporting the mission doing their final preparations. Of course, the amazing team down at Kennedy Space Center who launches the vehicle is hard at work getting that vehicle ready to go, getting the ground teams ready to go. Closer to home, I lead the lunar science team for the mission. We're actually building our targeting plan that the crew will actually use to image the moon now for the mission. So teams from lunar science all the way to Kennedy Space Center are hard at work.
Now, it's been more than 50 years since this type of launch has happened, or this kind of mission has happened. So is there anything, there's so much that's changed in 50 years, but is there anything that you all draw on from old for now?
Absolutely. The first is inspiration. I am as big an Apollo nerd as anyone, right? So read all the books, watched the documentaries, watched the, Hollywood movies. And so the excitement is just, mounting across the agency because, of course, we have a lot of Apollo fans, here at NASA. But I also say, of course, we learned a lot of really wonderful lessons from how Apollo conducted lunar operations. Scientifically, we've spoken to members of the science team that supported Apollo missions. We've spoken to Apollo crew members about their training and about actual operations when they were in orbit around and on the surface of the moon. So Apollo certainly, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and they paved the way to where we are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. And maybe talk a little bit about just the advancements that have happened that allow you all to do something similar, but in a different way.
Absolutely. I mean, these are not the Apollo missions, right? This is the first crewed mission in the Artemis mission profile. We're sending astronauts around the far side of the moon and back again. Future missions will actually land crew members on the surface, and we're targeting the south pole of the moon, which is quite far away from where the Apollo missions conducted their spacewalks on the lunar surface. So we are using the several decades of technology advancements to pivot to this new exciting destination on the lunar surface, and closer to home, all of the science objectives that new area affords us.
With Artemis 1, there had to be multiple attempts. What are your thoughts on having watched that, gone through that? What is it like? Maybe I should be asking you that, because for most of us, we have no clue what it's like to be a part of something and to see an attempt happen, and then you've got to go back and fix things and reattempt it from that standpoint.
Absolutely. I am also an obsessive planner, so I like to be prepared for anything. And the really the long and short of it is kind of comes down to the reason why I love my job so much, and it's the people and how prepared we are. The entire team is prepared for whenever we end up launching. The crew is prepared. The vehicle teams are prepared. The flight control team is prepared. The lunar science team, we've built plans for a number of different launch windows already, and we'll continue to do so. Really, it's about preparing the team and the hardware to do the best job we possibly can whenever it is that we may launch, and I'm fully confident in our ability to do so.
Now, when you say the crew is prepared, what kind of preparation do the actual astronauts go through right now? I mean, I'm sure there has to be nerves. Nerves can be good or bad. It can be very exciting, inspiring, all of those things. But what are they doing right now?
They're busy, just like we all are. I know that they're, completing their last training modules. They're doing last minute, mission simulations where the crew and the flight control team can really get efficient practice at all of the different phases of flight. And I couldn't possibly speculate about their day to day, but I'm sure they're spending time with family and friends.
Yeah. And how long are they expected to be up away from their family and friends?
The mission is about 10 days long.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I'm hoping that you all are able to launch it, no problems at all, on February 6th. If you can't, if February 6th doesn't become the date, what happens from there?
There are launch windows through April. And so the launch windows are roughly a week in duration, and we have several launch windows available to us from early March to April, through April.
Mm-hmm. How do you select the other dates?
Oh, definitely not my area, that's for sure. I can tell you what the moon will look like when they get there, though.
All right. This is really interesting stuff here. What do you think, for those of us, again, who aren't in your world, what do you think we maybe don't understand about missions like this? Like, what are you still looking for us to understand better?
I absolutely love that question. I think there could possibly, you could see there being a misconception on we've sort of been there, done that before. Scientifically speaking, we have a lot of unknown questions about the moon. I think maybe my favorite moon fun fact is that the moon is the witness plate for our whole solar system, which basically means that what the moon has experienced, our planet has experienced, except we here on Earth have oceans and plate tectonics and people and vegetation. The moon has none of that, right? So the record of our own planet is actually contained at the moon. And we have so many science questions that we're able to answer about our planet, about the moon, about the entire solar system with the capabilities that the Artemis missions are going to bring to us. Specifically, I'm really excited to hear the crew members' descriptions of what they see on the far side. They have the potential to see areas of the lunar far side, the side that always faces away from our planet, that human eyes have never seen before because they were not illuminated during any of the Apollo missions. So I just can't wait to hear their descriptions, their excitement, of course, the human emotion of it all. There's a lot we have left to do.
This is fascinating stuff for sure. I would love, since you're talking about, especially kids looking at this, like what did you want to be when you were a kid? Like, how did you end up at NASA doing what you're doing?
I wanted to do something in science. I knew that as soon as I started taking science classes, even as early as elementary school, I knew that really excited and motivated me. I was definitely a kid that was playing outside a lot, going on hiking trips with my family. When I found out that I could do geology for a career, I remember the first day I ever took a geology class, never looked back, never questioned it. And then when I found out I could do geology on other planets, other planetary surfaces, I was completely hooked. So I've kind of always been a bit of a science nerd.
And it all paid off. I think that's really important for people to be able to kind of see the road. Everybody's journey may be different, but to know what options are available to you. So when Artemis 2 does get up into space, like what's the timeline like in terms of the trip that they're making around the moon?
Yes, I love that question as well, because I can't wait to actually get them near the moon and making observations. So they will have a couple-day journey after they do their translunar injection burn before they get to the moon. Scientifically, for me, the activities that I'm going to be looking out for on that couple-day journey, the crew will have time to study, right? Review the plan that they're going to actually undertake when they actually get to the moon. We'll have a crew conference with them where we give them the last reminders and answer any questions they might have about the lunar features that we're asking them to image and describe. And then they'll do a several-hour flyby where the windows will be pointed at the moon during the time of closest approach, and they'll be following this plan that the lunar science team has developed with them. And of course, they're members of our science team too. Actually, the explorers doing the field science by taking pictures and describing the lunar surface. So they'll have a whole list of targets that they're expected to image and describe. They really leaned into their geography homework and gotten really into learning lunar features. So I'm really looking forward to hearing their great descriptions, because we've trained them multiple times, they've practiced multiple times, and let me tell you, they give some great descriptions of the moon.
Oh wow! So where will you be during their flight? Like, where do you observe it from, and what are you doing during the flight?
You're teeing me up to answer all of my favorite questions. Artemis 2 is the first mission where we will have a science officer in the front room of mission control. So if you've ever seen a space movie or watched any of NASA's missions, that main flight control room in the mission control center at the Johnson Space Center, we'll have a new console position that's responsible for lunar science and geology objectives. We also have a back room full of amazing lunar scientists that are going to be supporting that science officer position. And I'm fortunate to be one of the 3 science officers we have for the mission. So during the flyby, you'll be able to see me in mission control.
Wow. Well, it is really, quite frankly, an honor to be able to speak to you today. When we're watching, it's kind of like, when you're watching things for people maybe who know a football player before they become, the NFL player or something like that. And then once you see them in the NFL, you're like, oh, I know that person. That's what I'm going to be doing when you come up on the screen for NASA.
Well, that's a good analogy, because I know you guys have a big football game this weekend, so go Bears.
So you keep in contact with, you know what's going on in space, but also know what's happening with the Bears. You're even better, even better. Wonderful chatting with you.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, and please keep us updated.
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Pretty amazing stuff. And it is wonderful to be able to, and I love that, there's a woman here who is the lunar science lead for this. As we were just talking about, like, women's sports, it's really good for young women and men to be able to see all of these different opportunities that are available to them that maybe you haven't seen before. Maybe you think of NASA, and even if you're talking to young kids about NASA and they just think of the astronauts. Lunar science lead. You go, girl. Amazing stuff. All right, it's 1:28. Let's take a 2-minute break and we'll be right back. All right, 131 this weekend. Of course, our weather, it's just been pretty crazy over the last few weeks and definitely over the last few days. We are getting ready for the Bears game this weekend, and we're kind of excited about the fact that things are going to be so cold and a little bit more snow to welcome the LA Rams. But you know what? That also welcomes potholes. And I don't know about you and your driving experience around the city, around Chicagoland, but just the other day, I was in a ride share and it was snowing. And as we're going about, you hear and you're like, oh, that did not sound good. I want to bring in Michael Drake, the Deputy Commissioner of In-House Construction for the Chicago Department of Transportation, to talk a little bit more about the holes that are opening up and the conditions that we have outside. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me this afternoon.
So we say there's winter and then construction season. We know crews are really going to have their work cut out for them when it comes back around to having to patch up some of these holes. Can you talk about the weather conditions that allow for potholes to open up?
Yes, typically, weather conditions are a big impact for, creating potholes out there. It's, through the freeze-thaw cycle, through our multiple, we have fall 4 seasons through the year, and that does take a beating on the pavement through any different conditions of subsurface, issues when water freezes and thaws and pops asphalt or concrete away, which causes the potholes.
Mm-hmm. So when crews, first and foremost, let me ask you, when do crews actually go out to patch them up? I mean, is there a problem with patching them up now? Do you have to wait?
No, we can continue to patch through the winter. We have 25 to 30 crews daily, 7 days a week this winter. Typically through December and April, we run 7 days a week with those 30 crews. We have cold patch asphalt material that's able to fill these potholes efficiently through the winter season, and then allowing us to get into the summer season when we get hot mix asphalt pack.
Interesting. So are there any things that maybe show signs that, like, oh, we're going to have a more we're going to have a bigger job ahead of us come the summertime? Are there any signs now that kind of tell you that's to come?
We do look at the historical trends through the numbers through our 311 system for high volume areas that are, do get a lot of calls for potholes on those blocks. So we do identify those and work with our partner agencies and stakeholders, aldermen, to try to select those for proactively for resurfacing come summertime to address those issues that we proactively look at through through identifying the trends through 311.
Are there any areas that are more prone to potholes than others?
No, I'm going to be out there. We know they're out there. They're, the weather does take its toll on the roadway. We do proactively go out and fix them, identify them. But yeah, it's potholes like all parts of the city.
Mm-hmm. All right, and let's be helpful to folks out there. What should you do if you hit a pothole?
First, continue to drive safely. Hopefully everything's all right. If there's any damage, you can contact the city clerk to file a claim, or you then also can call that pothole in to the 311 system for a pothole and street complaint that we would our up to 30 crews would be out there fixing it within 7 to 14 days.
Is there a peak time, like a peak month or a peak time frame that you all typically get more of those calls?
Typically at the change of the seasons, once we have a little bit more of that freeze thaw coming in, December, January are typically hard. The unique weather conditions over the past few years have given us a little bit of a change of seasons, but also then come springtime in March, April is typically another high volume time of year.
Yeah, the last few years, the winter has definitely been more mild. Winter is wintering is what I woke up saying this morning. I was like, oh, winter is wintering this year. So does that make you all kind of feel like, oh, okay, we've kind of had a reprieve in some ways over the last couple of years, but maybe you're having to gear up a little bit differently this year than you have the last few?
Yeah, with the extension of the seasons, typically our pothole season has started a little bit later and gone a little longer in these previous years. So we still do the same amount of volume, typically year to year with the same volume of streets, but just kind of the phasing in and out of the construction season and the pothole season has shifted quite a bit lately.
What are maybe some of the things people, like misconceptions about what you all do or potholes in general?
Misconceptions that they're going to be fixed immediately. They do take some time to get fixed. There are issues that are not potholes. Typically, a pothole needs to have a confined edge, a bottom. A lot of times depressions through the roadway are called in as potholes that we can't put material in, but a lot of what can and can't be filled as a pothole or considered a pothole, we do work with our utility agencies to identify any issues that are more in depth than just a pothole for cave-ins that are leading to utility infrastructure issues further subsurface.
I have to ask you, what is the worst pothole you have ever seen? Describe it to us.
Probably about a 3-foot diameter, 6 to 8 inch crater in an alley that we just kept. We eventually resurfaced it, but that was a pretty good doozy.
Wow, I can only imagine. I hope to only ever imagine. I hope to never come across something like that. But oh my goodness, that is significant. What kind of damage can a pothole do to a vehicle?
Yeah, it can cause a flat tire. It could lead to some damage, but typically if driving safely through consistently through the roadways or alleys, you can try to avoid them, and also keep in mind that our CDOT workers are out there working diligently 7 days a week, and give them the benefit of the doubt and don't try to speed around them. We want our guys to come home safely each and every day as well. So driving conditions and driving speeds through there are also to be taken into consideration.
Really important things to take into consideration for sure. And tell me what the week has been like for your crews.
This has been a little bit of a challenge with the snow. It does get us off to a little bit of a late start. We have a lot of other snow responsibilities through the right of way as well, but it's challenging. It does take a couple more rounds of repair to get these temporary patches to stick a little bit. So we are actively fighting them out in the streets this week and in the snow.
How long does it? I mean, obviously the size and whatnot, and maybe the conditions would change this. But like, what would a typical schedule kind of look like? How many could you end up patching in one day, and how long does each one take? Like, what does that look like?
That's a loaded question. It depends how much material they have to put on a block. If there's a good bad, if it's one single hole on a block versus a block that maybe the next line up for resurfacing the next year or so. Volume, typically we like to try to get 20 to 30 blocks in a day per crew. And then, like I said, with the 7 days a week, that gets us through this winter season pretty efficiently.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, and there's a lot of ground for you all to cover. So, we're grateful. Let me make it abundantly clear. We are so grateful for the crews that go out and help to make our roads safer for all of us to drive on a regular basis. Thank you for what you all do.
Anytime. You're welcome. And thank you for having me this afternoon.
Wonderful. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
All right, it's at 1:40, everyone, and I hope that we all took a little bit of something from that. I mean, there are so many jobs around the city that make the city work that maybe you don't fully understand what they're doing, or you get a little frustrated because it doesn't happen in the time frame that you would like it to happen. But of course, they do have a lot of ground to cover in this area. So we're grateful for what they do. We appreciate each one of the workers who are out there bearing the conditions to help us out in the long run. It's about 1:41. Let's take a quick break. Give us about 2 minutes, and then we'll push on from here. And let me tell you, when we come back, we're going to be talking about a biggie, a doozy, if you will. The big conversation surrounding where the Bears Stadium will be in the future. It got a little more interesting this week, just in the last, let's say 48 hours here. So we're going to be talking with the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau about the new Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority. Just about 1:45, everyone. Yes, we are super excited about the Bears game on Sunday, 5:30 p.m., taking on the LA Rams. We certainly hope that we get a win, but we want to dig a little bit deeper into the side conversation, the off-field conversation that's going on, if you will, because as this stadium debate continues to heat up here, it's not just the cardiac bears on the field that are maybe making our hearts beat a little faster. It's trying to figure out what's their future looking like in terms of a stadium in the years to come. Will it be in the city of Chicago? Will it continue to be here in Chicago some kind of way? Will it move on to Arlington Heights? If you were here with us this week, Arlington Heights saying, hey, we're still in this thing. We still want it. Things have really been getting interesting when it comes to the prospect of Indiana. This week, we found out about the Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority. And Phil Tyon, the South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau Chief, is joining me now to talk a little bit more about the new announcement, where we go from here. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely, Anita. I'm glad to be back on.
Phil, great to have you back here. And you know, we're going to have to keep calling you back as this conversation just continues to get more interesting. So Governor Braun really makes it clear that Indiana wants to roll out the red carpet, essentially. Tell me about this stadium authority.
Absolutely. So obviously this discussion about the potential stadium move to Northwest Indiana has been going on for a while now, and there's been a lot of steps and conversations that have taken place to make this come to fruition from an Indiana standpoint. And I always like to say, Anita, we talked a little bit about this last time, Northwest Indiana is Chicagoland. I think we both agreed on that. All of our media is Chicago, and everybody here has always been a Bears fan in this area already. But this was a significant step taken by the state of Indiana. Creating the stadium authority now gives the state the tool they need to offer the potential incentives that are going to be necessary to make that's going to be able to negotiate potentially a bond to help with the construction, the purchase, the renovations, the infrastructure work, everything that's going to be necessary to have a successful new stadium in Northwest Indiana. So this was a big step for the state. It shows they're taking this very seriously. It shows that there are real conversations going on right now. And it really didn't surprise a lot of us once this legislation was submitted. If anything, I think a lot of us were waiting to see when it was going to become official.
Yeah. And tell me, I mean, it is extremely significant, but tell me how it differentiates Indiana from the prospect of staying in the city of Chicago or going to Arlington Heights.
Well, and I'm going by, information that I've really read or somebody has shared with me when it comes to Illinois and Chicago and Arlington Heights. But it sounded like the legislator in that state wanted to wait on potentially having some serious discussions on incentives and infrastructure work that was needed as far as the Arlington Heights spot or any other spot in Illinois. And so I think how it's different is that in the state of Indiana, we've rolled out the red carpet. I think we've put our best foot forward as far as the offer that would be necessary to get this deal done. The legislators are taking it seriously. We've got a lot of investors, bankers that are behind this that are talking about the financing of it and the complicated complexities that would be a part of this process. So if you're asking for the difference between Indiana and Arlington Heights or Chicago right now, I would say that we want this more. And we want to get it done as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to make an offer that we believe will put the Chicago Bears in the best place to be successful with this franchise going forward.
Yeah, I mean, anyone serious would want to make it as hard for them to refuse as possible. What would it mean for the area?
The impact of a project of this magnitude, it's almost hard to quantify. This would be a complete trajectory change for Northwest Indiana. Again, we're still part of Chicagoland, and it seems like the site that they're really looking at in Hammond, literally only less than 30 minutes away from here, Northwest Indiana. If we're able to get the Bears to move their stadium here, the impact of that would be hard to quantify. I mean, we're going to have the new opportunities that we would have when it comes to entertainment and hotels and restaurants and retail and family investment that maybe we haven't seen here in a while. I think the impact, it would be profound, and everybody here realizes that, and that's why we're pushing hard to get it done.
Now, let me ask you this, because one of the things that often comes up in terms of the benefits of Indiana, or how people in Indiana look at this, is that, well, the taxes are lower in Indiana, but the more things you add, wouldn't the taxes start going up?
That's true. So depending on what incentives and infrastructure work that the state of Indiana will offer, will obviously determine the financial details of the deal. However, from the little bit I've looked at, the comparison of the Indiana real property tax compared to the state of Illinois, specifically because the state of Indiana has property tax caps, meaning the Chicago Bears will know going forward they can't be charged any more than 3% of their real property tax going forward. I think in Illinois, you don't have anything that suggests that you're 100% going to be safe going forward 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as far as what you're going to pay in taxes. And the projections that I've currently seen compared to what Illinois would be charging annually in taxes right now compared to Indiana, you're talking tens of $millions annually today that obviously could add up over a 20, 30-year period. So although the incentive would change the details of the financing and how much the tax dollars are going to be used for this process to get it done, I think it's very clear that Indiana's pro-business and tax climate is in a much better space, and you could a lot less risk if you are the Chicago Bears and you're looking at investing billions of dollars.
Very interesting perspective there, yeah. So in the governor's address, was there anything else that you knew was coming and you said, okay, yeah, we were ready for this, or that maybe surprised you?
No, he really has kind of given the same message since these conversations have started with the Chicago Bears. And he let all the legislators know, he let the state of Indiana know that he wants to get this project done. He understands how important this would be for the state of Indiana, what type of uplift this would give us in Northwest Indiana specifically, but for sure as a state. So he really focused on the excitement of it, what it would mean, and that he's taking it very seriously. And I think he truly believes the state of Indiana is going to get this project done. I think there's still a lot of people out there that are mentally struggling with the idea of the Bears moving from Illinois to Indiana. But I think if you ask the governor today, I think he's 100% being honest, telling you we are going to get the Bears to Northwest Indiana.
Did the Kansas City Chiefs announcement kind of solidify that a little bit more, or make it feel more real?
Hurt. I think as you look at a number of teams across the country, that the name that of their team compared to where they're actually playing football, it proves that this is a winning strategy. It could be very successful. And again, as I mentioned last, we love Chicago. We love people from Illinois. And I think what they'd find if the stadium did move here, it would be such easy access for them compared to where the location of the stadium is now, that although it takes that little, you got to get through that little mental block of moving to a different area. I think once this did happen and they started realizing, hey, this actually was a great move for the Chicago Bears, and it's made it easier for them to come to games, park, have entertainment around the stadium. And I think overall, even the people from Illinois and Chicago would be excited once this project moved forward.
Now, I mentioned the Kansas City Chiefs, and as you were speaking, I was trying to like kind of think.
We're slow in reading. I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, continue on. Let me see if it's if
yes.
it's steady now. It appears that his picture is frozen at the moment, but he was getting into, an interesting aspect of this because, of course,
I apologize for that. So the lesson learned.
All right, we're going to have to cut his interview short, unfortunately, just because we're having some issues there. But really interesting conversation, especially when you start to look around the league at the other teams that have accomplished this. He brought up a good point with the New York teams, the Buffalo team, and then also you've got the Giants that are practicing in New Jersey or playing in New Jersey, or the fact that Kevin Warren was a part of bringing the Vikings a new stadium when he was working for that team. There's lots of things that you can learn from other things that are happening around the league, but I am very interested in finding out what the perspective is from the Colts, how they're feeling about the possibility of another NFL team being in the state of Indiana. I would love to be able to hear. We might need to pull that in at some point in time to hear a little bit more about what they're feeling or what their experience has been like, and how they feel that could change with another NFL team in their state. So lots of conversations there as we still look forward to what should come. And again, I will reiterate, the folks in Arlington Heights and hey, even here in the city of Chicago, everyone's still saying we are still in this. We haven't lost our dog, our dog in the fight. So, we'll see what happens with all of it, where the Bears end up being. And of course, the timeline aspect of this is really what I wanted to ask him about next. When they think they could even have this done for Indiana. What the sense of urgency is in all of this, because the Bears want shovels in the ground sooner rather than later. So that could factor into it too. How quickly could one state get it done versus another? Lots of questions to be had. So we'll continue to forge forward with our conversation, and I'm sure we'll be pulling Phil back into it. Apologies for us not being able to continue on with our discussion today with Phil. That was Phil Tyon again, just for those of you all who didn't catch his name off of the top. He is the CEO of South Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau, talking about the Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority and Indiana's grand plan for trying to get the Bears to cross the state line. Let's take a quick break, about 2 minutes, and then I'll set you up for the 2 o'clock hour. Welcome back, everyone. It's 2:02 right now. Let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect in this hour here. We're going to talk more about our weather here in the city of Chicago and throughout Chicagoland as we go into a big weekend for the Bears. Yes, the weather is changing. This morning we woke up to more snow, and will we get some more? Maybe as the Rams start to, take to the field for practice. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to talk with one of our meteorologists a little bit later on in the hour so we can get some details. But we know, the one thing we do know is that it will be very cold for those folks coming from LA. So we'll get some details coming up around 2:45. Also around 2:30, we're going to talk about the Clean Slate Law. It was just signed into law this morning by Governor Pritzker. And there are very strong emotions about this particular law that many say gives people a second chance. And we're also going to be talking, though, about table tennis. That's our first conversation for this hour. Obviously, the big story, the big sports story that everybody has been leaning into has to do with the Bears, but there's also Major League Table Tennis that's going to be happening throughout the weekend for the city of Chicago in this area here. So I want to go ahead and bring in Major League Table Tennis founder and CEO Flint Lane to talk about this wonderful sport and what people can expect this weekend. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Now, I want to ask you a question right off the top because a lot of people are watching Marty Supreme. Have you seen Marty Supreme?
Oh, I most certainly have.
Well, what were your thoughts on the movie?
Well, it is a movie that has some table tennis action in it from the 50s and is loosely based on a former great American player who was a bit of a hustler as well. So the movie was quite interesting. It is an older format of table tennis called hardbat, and the modern format is a little bit faster, a little spinnier, but I really enjoyed the movie.
Okay, all right. Very interesting to get your perspective on it. I had to follow through a lot of things while I was watching it, but at least you know table tennis enough to be able to like kind of leap over some of the things I still had to get from the floor. So let me ask you this next question again, as someone who doesn't know as much as you. Is table tennis different from ping pong?
There are different opinions on that subject. Those of us in the sport, we use them interchangeably. Table tennis is the official name of the Olympic sport. Sometimes people think of ping pong as the basement sport. China is the most popular and the best table tennis teams in the world, and they call it ping pong. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're talking about ping pong or table tennis, it doesn't really matter.
All right. We did not want to be offensive, so we wanted to get that very clear right now. So tell me, why bring it here to Chicago?
Well, professional table tennis is popular in many, many other countries. There are leagues throughout the world. Professional table tennis here in the U.S. is brand new. We started our league a little over 2.5 years ago. We're in our third season. We have 10 teams in cities throughout America, including the local team, the Chicago Wind, which is led by a local person named Eric Owens, former national champion. He's the coach of the Chicago Wind. So this is our home stop for the Chicago team. We're here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with 2 matches each day. And tickets are available at our website, mltt.com.
Is it a growing sport?
So what many people don't realize in America is table tennis is wildly popular globally. It is more, you were talking about the Chicago Bears, it is way more popular than American football, way more popular than American baseball. It is the 6th most popular sport globally. It is also popular in America. It's a bit of a basement sport. Many people grew up with a table in their basement or, played in school, but nobody knows about it as a professional sport. It has grown dramatically in our last 3 years. Ticket sales are up 60 to 70% year over year. We just did a recent sellout in Portland, and we're expecting a big crowd this weekend in Chicago.
Well, I certainly hope there's a big crowd. What is training for table tennis like? How do you get good?
Yeah, it's like anything else. It requires a lot of practice with a great feedback loop from a professional. So many of our athletes are Olympians. Probably about half of our 80 athletes in the league went to the Olympics at one point or another. Many went several times. Lily Zhang is America's sweetheart in the sport, had many viral moments with the NBA team in the Olympics, has been to the Olympics 4 times. She's been training since she was 6 or 7 years old and is now in her mid-20s. And it's generally 2 to 4 hours of practice every single day, lots of cardio, great diet. Just like any other sport, if you want to get to the top, you've got to be disciplined.
Wow. And again, I'm just going off of just recently watching Marty Supreme. But tell me a little bit about like technique to things, because, he was like looking at, you mentioned the Chinese being really good at this. Like he was over in China and looking at how they were positioning the ball as they were starting. Like how do you strategize?
A lot of it is understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent. In tennis, different people have different strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, some have better forehands and backhands and vice versa. Table tennis brings in an enormous other variable, which is spin. So it's speed and placement, but the spin that you put on the ball is often very deceptive, and the opponents need to figure out quite rapidly, are you putting underspin, topspin, no spin, side spin, and make an instant calculation because you're standing only 9 feet away from your opponent. In professional baseball, you've got 60 feet separating the pitcher and the batter, and that gives you, fractions of a second to figure it out. Table tennis, the ball doesn't move as fast, but it's 6 times closer than in professional baseball. So your reaction has to be double to triple the speed of a professional baseball pitch.
Do you see real injuries happen?
There are, not contact injuries like you're not getting an elbow to the face like you would in basketball, but, lunging for shots, torn ACLs, they happen, but certainly the injuries are not as common as you'll see in some of the full contact sports, which makes it great for, kids getting into a sport who, don't want to run the risk of concussions and things like that.
Oh, you're talking to some parents out there.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. So tell me your background in table tennis.
Yeah, so funny story. I actually have been a recreational player my whole life. When I turned 45, my wife surprised me with a birthday present, a table tennis lesson from an Olympian who lived in my hometown of Princeton, New Jersey. So I thought I was really good. I used to, win all the time at work. And went for my lesson, and he smoked me. It wasn't even close. So I really had no appreciation for what great table tennis is. In fact, our tagline at Major League Table Tennis is "Think you're good," because so many people think they're good. People come out to the matches and they see these athletes, 20 feet off the table, bombing away these different shots. They're like, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea what good was." At the time, I was running a software company that eventually got acquired by a private equity firm. So 3 years ago, I was looking for my next chapter, and I'm fascinated by professional sports as a business. And I thought, you know what? Somebody's got to do this. Why not me?
What a wonderful thought, and I think that's something for a lot of people to hold on to, because so often you'll see something, you'll see a business and you're like, why didn't I think of that? Or, I did have that thought, but I was too timid or had too many self-doubts to actually step out there and do it. And you did it, and look how it's paying off here. And I harken back to the wife prize. Do you think that maybe she had some ulterior motives and maybe humbling you just a bit with that lesson?
Frankly, if you ask me what any of my birthday gifts to my wife, we've been happily married for 33 years now, are, I can't remember many of the gifts, but this one literally changed my life because I fell in love with the sport. At the time, I was playing a lot of basketball, and injuries were very common in basketball. So I was looking for another competitive pursuit. So I started training, I started taking lessons, started playing tournaments. And then 10 years later, I'm starting a professional table tennis league that if she didn't buy me this lesson on my birthday, it never would have happened.
I love that story. So is there like, for a lot of sports, there's like a body type or, some type of, things that you would want to model yourself after for that particular sport that you find in that particular sport. Is that so for table tennis?
The wonderful thing about our sport is you do not need to be a genetic outlier. You don't need to be 6'6" to be great at our sport. The best player on the planet is 5'9". There are some players who are 6'6" who obviously have much better reach, but they move a little bit more slowly than the shorter players. So you'll see players of all shapes and sizes. Generally, you need quick feet because you're not just sitting there hitting the ball back and forth. You are moving all over the place, and your goal is to move your opponent all over the place. So it's more of a question of speed of feet than shape or size.
So you're saying I have a chance. I'm playing with you.
I think if you start training now, you could easily lose to an Olympian like I did.
I think that's a safe bet. That is a safe bet. So when people go to tournaments, when people are there, say for this weekend, what does that look like? What is the experience like? What's the setup like?
Yes. So we're a teams-based league. So we have 10 teams, and we'll bring 4 to a city. So this weekend, we've got 4 teams in Chicago: the Texas Smash, the New York Slice, the Florida Crocs, and the home team, the Chicago Wind. We have 2 matches each day on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They are at 4 p.m. and 7:30 on Friday and Saturday, and 11 a.m. and 2:30 on Sunday. The Chicago Wind the home team always plays the late match. So we have about a 2-hour team-based format, which is a combination of singles, doubles, and something we invented called the Golden Game, where the players rotate every 4 points, and the first 1 to 21 wins the match generally. We are also a co-ed sport, so we have both men and women competing, sometimes against each other, and it's incredibly exciting.
Very interesting. I want to ask you another kind of off the top of my head question here in terms of what you find women to be excelling at in the sport versus men.
Women generally play a slightly different flavor of the game. They stand closer to the table. They generally don't hit as hard as the men, so they excel at quickness. And when in America, the women and men play against each other all the time because tournaments are co-ed. In Europe, not so common. So many of our athletes are from abroad. We have 30 different countries represented in the league. And the men internationally hate facing off against the American women because they're so afraid of their style because they're just not used to it. And it's fun to see, American woman taking down this, star player from France as an example.
I think that this is awesome, So again, where do people need to be this weekend, and where can we get tickets?
So tickets are available on the MLTT website, www.mltt.com. The matches are at Compass Arena in Willowbrook, and the prices for kids are less than $10. You can have a great night with the family for 30, $40 for your spouse and several kids. Or for couples, it's a great date night. In fact, we had a couple out at our match in Portland, and they recorded a fun video and went super viral with millions of people watching it because she was expecting courtside seats to a basketball game, and our boyfriend surprised us with courtside seats to a table tennis match, but they had a blast.
Does your wife play?
She plays casually. She's more of a tennis player. So this is my addiction.
Okay. And then I was, as you were speaking there, I was thinking, how long do these matches typically take?
About 2 hours. So we play 4 singles matches, 3 games each, 1 doubles match, 3 games, and a golden game. So it's nonstop action. You'll see the crowds. Nobody's on their phone because you never know when the great next amazing point's going to happen. There's a little intermission of 10 minutes so people can get a snack or so, but it's 2 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes roughly. And
how long has the longest one taken?
Maybe 2.5 hours.
Okay.
We've done a lot in table tennis to revolutionize the sport, and we've stolen a lot of ideas from other American sports. Like we have a serve clock, much like baseball now has a pitch clock, because we don't want people walking around wasting time. Let's get to the action. We don't play best of 3 or best of 5. We play exactly 3 games. So if you win 2 or you win 3, you're always playing 3 games. So we've got this dialed down to a pretty exact science.
Really cool stuff. Thank you so much for opening up our minds. And I hope that people really pack the arena this weekend.
Well, I hope to see you out there. Maybe I'll see you on the table.
I'm going to need quite a few lessons to get there. But like you said, I have a chance.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great speaking with you today. Have a good one. It's 2:16, everyone. We're going to take a 2-minute break and we'll be right back. All right, it's 2:21 right now. Let's take a look at what's going on in Ohio first and foremost here. We know today that Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and other cabinet officials are going to be touring today through the weekend different automakers' facilities. We're looking live here to one that's in and around the area of Toledo, Ohio. They're making this trip, of course. This is a Stellantis plant here in I believe. They're also going to a Ford plant where they're going to be talking about fuel economy and things, standards, consumer choice, other things of that nature here. This initiative, they're saying, comes as auto affordability has really been a topic that you even saw the president speaking to earlier this week as he was at a Ford facility in Detroit and touring that area before he talked with the Detroit Economic Club there. So right now, again, this is live to a plant in Ohio, but they are going to be going to Detroit as well. The Detroit Auto Show just started up, so that's one of the areas that many of the leaders are going to be headed to. They're also going to be at a Jeep Wrangler facility I'm seeing here where gladiators are made, so they can kind of talk about what is to come next. And again, this is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy who is going to be at these facilities today. But for many of these trips that Sean Duffy is on, he's going to be with the EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, also the U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. The three of them are going to be together as they kind of travel from place to place over this weekend, but starting here at the Stellantis Toledo plant where Jeep Wrangler and Gladiators are made. So you're seeing some of each right there in that picture. Let's also take a look at what's happening at Wall Street now while we have a little time and see how it's a mixed picture today. Started off in the green and things quickly took a turn. Right now sitting down 41 points, but kind of we've bounced all over the place today here. And really, we've been bouncing all over the place all week. We started the week off solidly in the green and things have changed quite a bit as the week has been going on here. So not sure where the day is going to end, but not looking too good right now. But as you can see, things could still turn around here, but it's been a losing week for a lot of traders for Wall Street here. And I'm just reading from the analyst here that they're saying that this has a lot to do with comments made by President Trump on a couple of different things, geopolitical issues. When you look at what's going on in Iran, when you look at right here at home, the ongoing controversy with the Federal Reserve, also the possibility of new tariffs that's been floated as well. So we've had three major averages hit their session lows today, with President Trump delivering remarks today saying that he'd rather have National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett stay in his current role, and says he might not be chosen, as there were a lot of rumors that he would be chosen as the next Fed chair. Jerome Powell, his session will end in May as the Fed chair, but then he would still go on to the Board of Governors. That is if he makes it to May, because of course there's been so much contention between he and the president over the last several months here. So also I'm seeing that there are some investors who are preparing to close out this week, just kind of grappling with a slate of headlines, also worrying about Greenland. That's another biggie. We saw the leaders of Greenland and also Denmark that came to the White House this week, as President Trump has said that there is a need for Greenland to be a part of the U.S. And they came out of the White House saying we fundamentally agree to disagree. They don't believe that Greenland should be a part of the U.S. And in fact, there were Danish military troops that started to come into Greenland shortly after that to kind of bolster up this thought that that they could kind of protect their own. There are a lot of questions as to what that would do to NATO if the U.S. were to interfere there, as it is seen by many. They're in Greenland here. So for the S&P 500 today, kind of holding steady here. You can see the Dow Jones not looking good as of right now. We're sitting down 60 points. It has continued to go down just in the time of talking to you right now, and we'll see where things close out with the NASDAQ. Even the composite, it traded up 0.1% at one point in time. We'll see where things close out the day, but just not looking too good right now. Really a mixed picture with more red on the screen than green as of today, and that's kind of how the week overall has been. Again, we'll continue to monitor that, but we have a couple of other situations that we're looking at right now. Let's take a quick break, just 2 minutes, and we'll be back to set you up with where we go from here. Welcome back, everyone. So this morning, Governor Pritzker signed the Clean Slate Law or the Clean Slate Act into law this morning. And we want to continue on the discussion about what it will mean for so many people out there who could stand to benefit from it. The executive director of Live Free Illinois, Reverend Sierra Bates Chamberlain, is joining me now to have more of a conversation about what it means and where we go from here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate this discussion. I'm just seeing here more than 2 million people in Illinois are eligible to have their records sealed, but haven't acted on it. Tell me what today's signing means to them.
This is really an opportunity for people to have an opportunity to move forward with their life. As you said, over 2.2 million people will be impacted and will have the opportunity to have their records automatically sealed. And currently under the process, it would have taken over 200 years for everyone that is eligible to have their records sealed, to have them sealed. So this is a monumental win, not only for those who are directly impacted, by this issue, but for families and for our entire communities.
Expound on that some more, like the impact that a record can have on someone. I mean, someone who has changed their life or is really trying to change their life, but what kind of impact a record can have for years to come on them and their families.
Sure. So some of the things, whether it comes from education, housing, employment, there's so many things that will hinder a person because of a past mistake. And so our piece is that we're not saying that accountability is not important, but we're saying that people should not have to have a permanent punishment on their background for the rest of their lives. And we know that in order for people to have access not to just a job, but to an opportunity to provide for their families, to financially contribute to their communities, that people need the opportunity to leave their records behind them so that they can thrive and be able to contribute to their communities in a meaningful way. And the records and having a record on your background, oftentimes, as we know, is a barrier for people to move forward and to build their lives. So this legislation is the most expansive clean slate legislation in the country. And this is a huge opportunity, and not only for the individuals that this will impact, but this will boost our economy by $4.72 million. I'm sorry, billion, not million, but $1 billion. So again, when people are able to move forward and have an opportunity to have access to meaningful employment and education, without the barrier on their back, we all as a community will thrive and flourish.
Some people, I'm sure, will hear this and wonder, what types of things are we sealing? What are the distinctions made as to who this helps?
Sure. So it's actually easier to say what is not included. And what has been excluded is nonviolent offenses. Sex trafficking, DUIs, animal cruelty, and violent offenses are not included, but everything else is covered by this legislation. So anything that is currently eligible to be sealed right now will be eligible for automatic sealing outside of the things that I named that were excluded.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and no murder convictions, everyone who's listening. No murder convictions. She mentioned DUI, many felonies, armed robbery, sexual assault, as she mentioned, aren't going to fall in this category here of things that are sealed.
Yeah, domestic violence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then I'm also seeing it removes the drug testing requirement to seal felony drug convictions.
Yes. I mean, we know that, again, a lot of these things are barriers and they're antiquated policies that really don't play into public safety. And because all of these things are in place so that we can make sure that our communities are safe. But what we know is that a lot of these measures really don't keep our communities safe and they hold our communities behind. So our best bet is to make sure that we remove every barrier that will prevent people from being able to move forward with their lives. And that's what we did. And so I'm so grateful for our Clean Slate Illinois Coalition, for the governor, for Representative Jahan Gordon Booth, Senator L.G. Sims, for fighting with us to make this a reality in Illinois.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And, I think that people often look over the fact that the barriers sometimes contribute to people ending up back in that position again, that cause them to go to prison, or to make a mistake for the first time. The recidivism, the wheel that circles back around. This could be a part of maybe a clean slate, cutting ties to things that may have held people down before. One thing that we kind of questioned here in our studio was like, what about the automation aspect of this? So what is the importance of that versus doing it maybe a different way?
So the automation process is huge because, as we know, when you're going through the court process, there are there's a lot of red tape that the average person in community does not know how to navigate courts. There's long waits. There's a lot of follow up, but by automating the process, it removes the bureaucratic um, red tape, and people who are eligible can just have their records removed and they can move forward with their lives. And again, the other piece is if everyone who is eligible to have their records sealed were to go, it would take over 250 years, more than 250 years, for the state to clear those records. And so by the automation process, we are making sure that people have access to having their records sealed and they're able to move forward. You don't have to go through lawyers. Once the implementation is complete, people will literally wake up, go to the mailbox one day and receive a letter in the mail stating that their record was cleared or sealed.
One of the critics, I will say, of the bill questions whether people will have to show that they have been rehabilitated before their records are sealed. What do you say to that?
I think that when people use those narrow views on how they view those who have been directly impacted or have a record, this does not mean there's still a waiting period for when people will actually be able to have their records automatically sealed. But then we always have to ask the question, is that do we believe that once people do their time and serve their consequence, do we morally believe that they should have to suffer that consequence for the rest of their lives? And not only, and if we believe that, we're saying that they deserve to suffer for the rest of their lives, but their children and their community. And I believe that we are of greater minds and of bigger hearts to know that morally we cannot ask people to serve their consequence and then put a permanent punishment on them for the rest of their lives. So I get that people are concerned about public safety, but there are so many other things that we've put in place in community to ensure that the public is safe without trying to continue to put barriers on people who need to move forward with their lives.
Tell me a little bit more about Live Free Illinois.
Sure. Live Free Illinois, we're a faith-based organization. We organize over 120 congregations across the state, working at the intersection of public safety and criminal justice reform. We organize not only faith leaders, but those who've been justice impacted and also impacted by gun violence. We're also a part of Live Free National, which is one of the largest faith-based organizing entities in the country, also organizing around public safety and criminal justice reform and voter suppression.
And what has this journey been like to get to today?
This has taken a lot of organizing, a lot of power building, and a lot of being in community with people who have been directly impacted by these issues. And it has been a long journey, but I'm so grateful for the community. I'm so grateful for our coalitions, for partners who have emailed, phone bank, text bank, who have been on the ground having conversations in community, doing teach-ins. This is a community win, and we won this through organizing. It also shows that a lot of times we see on the media Black people or Black men and women, when there are mistakes made, they're highlighted in the media. But we want to really highlight the fact that people who have made mistakes in the past led this campaign so that they can not only right wrongs, but we can continue to create the communities that we envision where we all can live free. So I'm super excited and proud of the work that we were able to build on the ground and lead in community.
Yeah, what do you think helped to get it across the finish line this time?
So again, we we worked in community. This was community driven and community led. Clean Slate actually passed twice in the House, so we passed it last session in the spring, and then we had to come back and pass it in the House and the Senate. And the community wanted this. This wasn't a bill that we just ran through lobbyists or we partnered with a few elected officials, although Leader Jahan Gordon Booth was an amazing champion on this, also Leader Sims. But the community wanted this. Anytime, as we see, especially in the current world that we're in, where people don't believe in democracy in this moment, we showed that when you work democracy and when the people stand up and demand to create change, the change that they want to see, that when we organize, we win. And organizing won Clean Slate.
So for someone who will be impacted, what happens now?
So currently we're going through an implementation process, meaning that there will be waves of when the records will be sealed. So over a time period, going by years, a batch of records will be automatically sealed. And eventually we'll move to the point to where not only are the records sealed, but there's also a piece to where there will be an upgrade in the systems so that the counties will be able to automatically seal these records. So again, in a few years, people will wake up, their records will be sealed, and they will be able to move forward with their lives because of this life-changing and groundbreaking legislation.
So it won't happen like tomorrow. It's signed today, and tomorrow this is going to go into play where people's records would be sealed.
No, there is a process. There is a few years for the implementation because again, this will require an upgrade in systems. Some counties have antiquated systems or outdated systems that will require an upgrade. And of course, implementation because this is such a massive policy, implementation will take a couple of years for this, but not too long. But again, once the systems are up and running, people's records will be sealed with a touch of a button. And I didn't mention yet, but we will be the 13th state. We are the 13th state that passed this legislation. So we're super excited that Illinois is not only like making good decisions and passing good policy, but we're also keeping up and moving forward with times because we understand that those antiquated and outdated laws hold people back versus making sure that we keep our state and our people moving forward.
Obviously, there's cost in, cost out on this. If you're making people's records sealed, you are adding to the Job Corps by people who may not have been able to get jobs before or certain paying jobs before. There's that aspect of it. How much does this cost the state to implement?
So there has not been a hard number yet. This is what the task force will identify and put in place because again, counties have to sort of make sure that they're looking at their systems, and we have to look to see what will it take to update the systems across the county. So we have not had a hard number in place, but there was a part of this legislation creates a task force, and that task force will be charged to make sure that we're able to put the hard numbers in place on how much it will actually cost each county to upgrade their systems, which in a sense, again, we're in the age where if you're still using pen and paper, you're already 20 years behind. So some of this is just a long time coming for these government entities to update their systems.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Great talking to you about it. Again, this is Reverend Sierra Bates Chamberlain, the Executive Director of Live Free Illinois. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great weekend. 2:45, everyone. And just in the last couple of minutes, as I was speaking to the great Reverend there, meteorologist Mark Strell walked into Studio 32. So give us 2 seconds and we'll scoot him in here to give us some details about how this weather is shaping up for the big game this weekend. At 2:48 right now. The aforementioned Mark Strell is here.
I've never been aforementioned before. Sounds pretty
How
regal.
are you usually mentioned?
Just like, hey, you, come on over here. Yeah.
We're glad that you're up here. Should we be glad about the weather that we're experiencing or what is to come?
You know, there's good and bad in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is typically when we take our cameras out to the Brookfield Zoo, and the penguins seem happy, right? The sea lions are happy.
Mm-hmm.
The polar bears are happy.
For sure.
I bet you're not very happy.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's beautiful when it snows outside. Getting around in it becomes a little tricky, you know.
Well, we'll have a little more of that. So we've got a little bit of just light snowfall. It's not
What
going to
is
look at that. That is my fuzzy snow globe. It's shaken, not stirred. This is from the our new camera that is up on the North Shore,
the 2800.
2800. They're really nice folks because they let us stick a camera on their building there.
And it's been a great view.
Oh, look at that! We're blowing it off even as we speak. We've got like little blowers on there, kind of like you would on your dashboard.
Listen to us. Maybe they're watching Chicago Live. We appreciate them.
Yeah, well, and that is one of the prettiest views of the city, isn't it?
It is.
You see a lot of cloud cover there. There's a little bit of sun glow on the far southern horizon, but we're kind of stuck in the clouds here for the next couple of days.
Okay.
And that means occasional flurries, some occasional snow showers. I don't think we're going to see anything very major at all, just kind of a little dust up here or there. And we're talking about 30-40% odds. So, if you're a gambling person, if you put it this way, if you're a snowplow driver and you're thinking, I'm going to chalk up on the overtime, and you see the snowflakes on the weather map, probably not real huge, just some kind of hit and miss activity. And there you see the bean. It's all dried off and shiny and everything today, so we're in pretty good shape.
They do great work out there, though, removing everything at the bean.
A couple of weeks ago, we had Jake Hamilton that we sent out there. And, it's kind of funny because his audio didn't work, but his phone worked, his camera. So we just said, okay, Jake, go look at this, go do that, go do this, And it was funny because there were a couple of guys that were out there and they had like ATVs and little mini snowplows. And there were a couple of guys out there doing it the old-fashioned way, pushing it with and I'm like, if I'm applying for that job, I want the one that's on the, inside of the little cab with the heater, not the guy out there pushing.
Yeah.
But you're right. They do a great job out there. There's people there all the time, aren't there?
All the time, regardless of the weather conditions. And you know what? Sometimes when we have our worst weather, it makes for some of the most epic pictures for people who are out there. So.
I mean, because whatever, it's a reflection of our city. So whatever's going on, it's reflected beautifully. Thunderstorms, lightning. It's funny because, you mentioned always people down there, even during thunderstorms. You'll see people huddled underneath for, to keep dry.
Yeah. All right. So we know that the Rams are on their way. They're coming from LA. And so we're thinking like, are they really ready for this kind of cold? But for folks who are going to be out at that game, like, what are they going to be feeling on Sunday?
Here's the deal. And we mentioned a little bit of light snowfall kind of dancing around here or there. Not really a big deal. What will be a bigger deal will be the temperature. So let's talk specifically about game time. We're talking about temperature starting in the upper teens, moving down into the middle teens, and it'll be very windy. So I'm talking about wind chills that will be around zero and probably below zero for a good portion of the game. So it is going to be it's January in Chicago. It's going to be a bitterly cold game, especially for the Rams. I don't know, if I were the coach, wouldn't you want to get your team acclimated a little bit? Wouldn't you bring them a couple days, take them to the freezer and let them sit there for an hour or two?
I heard the Bears players have been practicing without heaters for the last few days to even get themselves ready for this. Yeah.
Well, that's because they haven't played in January very much in the last decade or so. I mean, there is that.
There's that.
So I mean, everyone's got to get acclimated. So and no matter what, and I've heard the Packers even talk about this in years past. They always talked about how we don't like playing in the cold either. It's just that we're a little better at it.
Exactly. Yeah. And few teams would want to really say we're horrible at it.
So even the Rams suck in sunshine.
Even the Rams are like, we're ready for it, but we'll see.
Here's the rest of the forecast. You can see pretty cold over the weekend, get real cold as we go Sunday night, which is kind of game time. We'll eventually get down, I think, close to zero in most of the suburbs. We're back up to a big 1-2 on Monday, and then 20 is still cold. That's still well below normal on Tuesday, and we get back to a little bit of above normal Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, or at least near normal. So we're not locked in for the rest of the week with cold. It's just this weekend and into the early part of next week.
Okay, all right. We'll see what happens from here. Especially for Sunday, because the game is starting at 5:30 p.m. So I think like that lack of sunshine adds into it as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why it's cold here in the winter. We have less sun, and that sun is at the lower angle.
But I'm thinking like compared to the Browns game in December that we had where it was below freezing or below zero for the wind chill then as well, but it was at noon.
Yeah.
Versus these conditions, and it's going to be nighttime.
The sun always makes you feel a little warm. You can, look up at the sun and smile.
Just make sure you bundle up tight.
We can't emphasize that enough. Obviously, if you're going to the game, you know how to dress. You're from Chicago, and the thing that I think is really kind of awesome is, I've seen it more this year, although it's not new this year, but everyone's wearing these electric coats, electric heated everything.
I've seen those, yep. I saw full snowsuits out at the game, that Browns game. I saw bear suits. It was like, you know what? That you look very smart. You look very smart.
I got to get one of those. Just don't walk around Michigan Avenue on an average Wednesday.
You will find plenty of friends out there.
I'm sure I will. Hello, Weather Bear. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's get ready for all of this that is to come. Ooh, cold temperatures, and that chance of snow has been going up throughout the week for Sunday as well.
Yeah, again, it's not a major thing. It means some flurries, some snow showers. It shouldn't be a major dump, but just enough to make it fun for football.
Okay. All right. 2:55, everybody. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, everyone, 2:57, and before we get to the 3 o'clock hour, let's take you down to Florida, shall we? Since we were talking about how cold it is here, let's go to warmer conditions, even though they're expected to get some cold temperatures there as well, at least cold for Florida. So today, President Trump is going to be attending a ceremony. This is a street renaming that's going to be taking place there, we know. It's gone on for 6 months that they were trying to get this going, and so he's speaking now. Let's listen into a bit of his speech.
For being here, I appreciate it. She's, she can be a little nasty, but to me, she's always nice. So that's all that matters. I want her to stay that way too. But I was over there, and he looked at me, the king of Saudi Arabia. He said, I can't believe it. This was a few months ago. Took back all that money for the country. He said, I can't believe this is happening because 1 year ago you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country in the world. And I use that quote all over. And it's true. We were a dead country, and now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're taking in more income than any country. We're doing better than any country. The stock market's doing better than anyone's ever seen before. We have the best stock market we've ever seen. 401ks are doing better than they've ever done before. They're up 78% in many cases. But starting on day one, we fully secured our Southern Boulevard and stopped and think of it, as we were securing Southern Boulevard, making Florida great, we're also securing a thing called the Southern Border and making that great, and we stopped the invasion of our country. So Florida's been ahead of their time. Florida was ahead, it led the way, but we stopped this was an invasion on our border. And, I don't know if this is correct because it can't be correct. It's too good. But for the last 8 months, there have been no people that came into our country illegally. Now, I don't know if that's possible. How do you go from 25 million people in 4 years to 0 people? But the people, Wilton, the people that report this are Democrats. So it must be true. I mean, but it's like 8 months now, and they report it every month. No people came into our country, so I don't know, illegally. A lot of people are coming in legally. They're going through a process, but we don't want the illegal coming in. You look at what's happening in Minnesota, it's so sad. And it's so sad because ICE is taking out murderers. They're taking out drug lords. They're taking out people from mental institutions, bringing them back to their country. They're taking out the roughest people, Tren de Aragua. The jails are emptied out from Venezuela. Now I like Venezuela very much. I say good things. I don't talk about Venezuela in a negative. I think it's a wonderful country. It's very interesting. It's so much different. It's changed so much.
Okay, we've been listening in there to President Trump as he is a part of a ceremony for a formal name change to a street there in West Palm Beach where Mar-a-Lago is. So he is a resident of that area. And this is about a 3.5-4 mile stretch of road there. It was Southern Boulevard, but now it's going to be formally named after President Donald Trump there. So the issue was hotly contested, but ended up passing in a vote about 6 months ago. What I'm seeing here is that overall this is going to be a ceremonial designation. So the name is ceremonial, the meaning that it will not affect addresses, 911 responses, or official maps, but signage is expected to be installed in the coming months, and Google Maps has already reflected the Trump designation on that app. So some changes that are happening there, and you heard him as he was touting many of the things that he believes his administration has succeeded in. Immigration policies, talking about the lack of many people coming across the border in recent months. Also talking about what's going on in Minnesota, which of course has become very controversial with ICE and the the stepped up immigration enforcement that's happening in that area of Minneapolis especially. He says, though, they're going after the roughest people. Now, I'll tell you that our next conversation is going to be with someone who really, is pulling more attention to what's happening here with Operation Midway Blitz, what happened here, and the area that was specifically at the center of it, the Broadview Ice Processing Center. I want to go ahead and bring in Carlos Alvarez Araños. He is the founder of American Opposition. Thank you so much for your time.
For having me.
I appreciate you being here. You know, I think it's good that we're always hearing different sides of things. Obviously, like I just said, we heard the president saying they're going after the roughest people, and he feels like their efforts have been a success. You are one of the minds behind the No Kings protests that have been popping up across the country, and now you're going to have one here this weekend. So what are your thoughts on the immigration efforts?
Well, I mean, you know, if the reason that people aren't coming across the border is because you're treating them in a way that sort of harkens back to how the Nazis treated Jews under Nazi Germany, then obviously you're going to get a result, but you're going to get it at the expense of protecting the rights and privileges of not just American immigrants, but also American citizens and American residents. So ultimately, how you do it, you know, the ends don't justify the means. How you do it matters. We're a country of process. We're a country of laws. We're a country that follows a constitution. And the fact that these people are brutalizing people, that they're murdering people, that in the camps, and we don't see this publicly, but we know it privately, that ICE is using detainees for slave labor, which is unconstitutional because these people have never been convicted of a crime. And the fact that ICE is doing these things means that we're getting the result, perhaps, of less migration, but we're getting it at the expense of our rights and our privileges and everything that matters about being an American. And so, again, I would just say, you know, we have to reflect on how this is being done, not just what is being done, and the people that are being targeted and mistreated. You know,
the president mentioned some things that you know, people are still waiting to be able to quantify, to qualify. You mentioned a few things that we haven't heard very specifically numbers on or more information on as well. But in these No Kings protests that have been popping up throughout the country, why bring it to Broadview specifically? I mean, a few months ago, I would totally understand it because there were protests day in and day out at the Broadview Ice Processing Center that we covered extensively, but it has been relatively quiet there over the last month or two. So why go back to Broadview now?
Well, we see it as a symbol. I mean, everything in the movement runs based on the symbolism of what's happened, and these stories are narratives that are interwoven, not just by the actions of people, but by the meaning that those actions bring. And Broadview is a place of meaning in this movement. It is a place of intolerance. It is a place of cruelty. It's a processing station, so it's the first place that migrants are taken to, and not just migrants, by the way, American citizens. We saw Kat Abu Ghazaleh, who's running for office. She was arrested there, and you know she was grabbed inappropriately in the process. So we're seeing. So Broadview will, unfortunately, is a stain on our society and an important symbol for people. And so we're bringing the protest to Broadview because we're bringing the Latino community primarily to answer for it, to stand up for itself and for each other at a place where the brutality begins, right? And we see that symbol, and it's an important symbol, and we want to make sure we engage it and let people know that we are formulating a response that is going to be led by Latinos. I'm a first generation migrant from the Dominican Republic, and so I'm very proud to stand up with my fellow Latinos and to bring them together so that we can answer for this. Because again, it may be that the situation is currently worse in Minneapolis, but it ultimately doesn't matter where this is happening because it's going to happen everywhere. If we allow this to metastasize, this is going to be a national issue, and it already is, because the fear that's metastasizing is the point. And what I always tell people is Donald Trump wants to be a dictator, but he doesn't have what he needs in order to do that. He hasn't secured military support. He hasn't done sort of the groundwork, partly because he's incompetent and he refuses to do the work. And so that's to our advantage. But what he's trying to do now is to shortcut the process and make up the ground that he hasn't earned by instilling fear, because fear is a great multiplier for him. If he can make us afraid, then, you know, he can he can make much more progress in terms of securing America and possibly canceling the next election. So for us, it's about formulating a response. We believe that Broadview has been a center in a way similar to what Auschwitz might have been, and et cetera, in terms of the representation, right? People know it. They know the name. They know what happened there. And so we're going to use that to continue the narrative. But now, rather than a defensive narrative and a protection narrative, we're going to be talking about how we as a people go on offense, stand up for ourselves, enlist law enforcement in helping us as well, because part of this is about law enforcement and state authorities realizing that they have to protect their people, and that there has been a condition change, right? We've gone from democracy to fascism, and now what used to be sort of normal for cops to protect federal agents, now they're going to have to consider whether that's something they can do in keeping with their oaths, right? And so all of that is part of this conversation. It's about launching a Latino-led initiative to protect the victims of ICE. And in the process of doing that, we're also hoping to galvanize the nation and get everybody to stand up, because before it's too late. Right now, we're at the cusp of losing this democracy. And if we lose it to fear, it's frankly worse than if we lost it to armed, to like militarization or something like that. Because fear is not real. Donald Trump's support is not real. And we want to make sure that we reveal that. And so the next few months for us are about, starting with Broadview now, is about standing up a response to this Gestapo-like tactics and making sure people understand that it's up to us, the American people, because Congress isn't going to show up, the Democrats aren't going to show up. We have to show up. And so I launched the very first National Day of Protest on February 5th, the first No Kings protest on February 17th, the Tesla boycott. I've been doing this from the beginning. I want to continue that trend. And right now, ICE is the armed force that Donald Trump is using as his military force, and we have to stand up to them. And I really want to focus on the victims and the Latino community in particular, and empower them to respond, because right now Latinos are too scared to stand up, and that's about to change.
I want to ask you several things based on your statement there. And I asked you specifically about going to Broadview for a couple of reasons. One, yes, the symbolism of it. Let me say, the Broadview mayor, Katrina Thompson, who we've had here on the show on Chicago Live before, she says, I appreciate Mr. Alvarez Arano's cooperation and open dialogue throughout this process, and his commitment to facilitate a peaceful First Amendment demonstration that aims to reinforce the message that the United States is a democracy committed to the rule of law. And she says here, not the rule of kings or tyrants. So she's saying that she appreciates the conversation that you've had. I can say she's been on the show before, showing frustration with the fact that she wasn't getting any type of coordination or cooperation in federal agents kind of coming to Broadview before. But my overall thing, I think my overall assessment in speaking to her also was that she has a lot of people in that area in Broadview who are like, we're not a part of any of this, and yet we're being affected by it. What do you say to citizens in and around Broadview who feel like they continue to be impacted by something they have nothing to do with?
Well, I would say, first of all, that I am sorry. As I expressed, I walked through the site this morning with law enforcement. I went into the businesses that are directly impacted by the protests, and I apologize to them. I am not here. I'm a small business owner myself. I started a limousine company after driving a taxi. I know what it feels like when people are all up in your business and you didn't have anything to do with it, and I know how that feels. So I apologize to the community of Broadview. But what I would say is the community in Broadview is largely a Latino community. The residential community there is Latino. And the fact is that none of this is escapes. None of us escape any of this, right? All of this impacts all of us. So no matter how much the people of Broadview don't want to be involved, unfortunately, we're all involved. Because if our country becomes a fascist country fully, and if we cancel the next election because the president said so, then we're no longer living in a democracy. Now, Latin American people, including me, I grew up under a guy named Joaquin Balaguer, but you know about Pinochet, we know about Castro, obviously, and Maduro recently, and Chavez. we've grown up under the tyranny that Donald Trump wishes to pursue. So as Latinos, we are much more aware of what's at stake because we ran away from what he's trying to create in order to find a better life here. And now that same thing is chasing us. So what I would say to the people of Broadview, and more broadly to the people of Chicago, and more broadly to the people of America, is we can't dismiss what's happening simply because we're inconvenienced by it. We must become active, and we have to stand up for ourselves, for each other, for the most vulnerable people in our community, for our communities of color. I was very proud that the Black Panther Party called me this morning and said that they would be joining us. This is solidarity, and solidarity means that we have to, all of us, come together and defend this nation that we love and this promise that we love, this idea of America as a future that's collective, that allows us all to express ourselves and to find our way and to build a life and to deliver something better for our children. And the way we do that is by standing up and by exercising our rights. Is it always convenient? It's never convenient. I've been doing this full time for a year. I have a company that's struggling because of it. I haven't really been able to raise any money because the Democrats, I want to replace Democrats and I want to replace all Republicans, but I really want to make the system better. And so I'm a threat to both sides in some way, and that creates challenges for fundraising. I am basically broke. I've given it all I have, and I'm going to continue to do that. And frankly, it could not be more inconvenient. My company's suffered during the pandemic, and it hasn't recovered, and I'm not there every day, and that's going to have an impact. But ultimately, look, if I have to lose my company, if I have to lose my livelihood, if I have to lose my home, if I have to lose my car or my motorcycle or whatever, I would gladly even lose my life for this country. This is the idea of America, the idea that I can live a life of dignity where I deliver on my vision for myself, and I take shots and I take risks and I engage with others and I love others and I find my community of friends and I build that community and I can aggregate and aggregate and aggregate. That is the vision of America. And frankly, I would rather be dead than not exist in that vision. So to me, inconvenience, again, I am really sorry to the community of Broadview for what we're about to bring to them. But I promise you, it is way better than what Donald Trump is threatening to bring to all of us if we don't stand up.
And you mentioned, feeling like Donald Trump's support isn't real. But it is. There are people who are adamant supporters of Donald Trump, and many of them have showed up in counter-protest when some of these movements have happened. Are you concerned about that? How do you make sure that these types of events stay peaceful?
Well, we've been doing them for a while. I mean, I've written this from the very beginning. So just to reiterate, I called for the first National Day of Protest on February 5th. I was joined by what eventually became 5051. Then we called for the second, which became the first No Kings protest. And I have participated in all of them. Through Remove the Regime was our most recent one in DC. We did the mass blackout, which was an economic action on Black Friday. I've been involved in every element of this, and I promise you, I've maybe seen 5 counter protesters in my entire time doing this. And I've spoken to audiences of 250,000 people. So I'm not guessing when I tell you there may be people who vote for Trump, but they are quietly ashamed of it, and they rarely come out and push his message. The ones who do are generally seeking attention, and they do it very loudly. And so I think it creates an impression that for example, I spoke on July 4th in Miami, and Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, who was just discovered to be on the payroll of ICE, by the way, showed up to try to distract from my speech. But those are, to me, 4 or 5 incidents across a year of protesting and a year of building a movement. And honestly, when I tell you that Donald Trump's support isn't real, I don't mean to say that 30% of Americans don't support him. I think that's probably a fair statement. But the 7 out of 10 who don't, maybe 2 of those are currently out on the street. What we need is the other 5 to join them. Because once that happens, then I think your visualization of who supports what will become much clearer. And honestly, I know it's not easy. I mean, we all have jobs. We all have lives. We're all very scared. We all have children, and the stakes are very high. So I don't want to
sound dismissive of this. There is real danger here, but it's not based on the fact that like Donald Trump has an army of citizens willing to fight for him. I think he has an army of ICE Gestapo people that he's offering and promising $50,000 bonuses to, and he's hiring white supremacists and people with Nazi tattoos and people that couldn't make it as law enforcement officers and that couldn't make it into the military, and now they're ICE agents, including Enrique Tarrio. But again, he's hiring an army of the worst people because he can't get any of the good people to support him in real ways. And frankly, Donald Trump right now has no path to recovery politically. From here on out, he's in a desperate place. Fear is his last and only option because he will never again gain or regain the trust of the American people. And so what we're seeing is actually weakness, not strength. And and he's using money and federal money. And by the way, money that was meant to pay for medical subsidies for people who were buying insurance, who are now seeing their insurance rates climb because that money is being spent on ICE, which, by the way, has a larger budget than pretty much any military on earth now. And the reason he's doing that is because he couldn't get a mob, so he's having to hire the worst people to replace that. It's a bunch of people that are frankly not qualified for law enforcement, not qualified for very much. And it's really sad to see that even those people have fallen for that thing, because I don't know why anybody would ever want to be remembered as essentially as a Nazi or as a brown shirt, especially in America, in a place where we don't ask people for their papers. That's not the legacy of the country we live in here. But he's hiring himself a mercenary army. That's the way to think of it. And he's having to pay them money. That means their heart is not in it, which helps us as well. So we have to continue to stand up. We have to call it what it is. We have to criticize these people directly. We have to remind them of what it's supposed to be. And we have to also remind them that there are a lot of little, footnotes on the $50,000 bonus, including the fact that they have to pay it back if they don't stay a full 5 years. And that in 5 years, Donald Trump's not going to be in office. So it's going to be a very difficult time for all of these people that have signed up to execute his term.
Carlos Alvarez Araños, the founder of American Opposition, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. You be safe this weekend. And I want to let everyone know here before we go to break, the Broadview Police Department is going to be working in conjunction with the Illinois State Police, the Cook County Sheriff's Police, the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, and the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. They say to maintain order and security throughout that No Kings event that's going to be taking place near the ICE Processing Center again in Broadview. There are several roads that are going to be shut down in that area. Beginning at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So if you live in or around that area, be aware of the changes that are going to be going on as Broadview anticipates 2,000 to 5,000 people being in that area tomorrow. All right, it's about 3:20 right now. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and then we're going to woo-saw and bring things up to a very lighthearted note of talking about the Bears game again, and maybe, even a nonprofit that could benefit from some of the things that happen on the field. Stay with us. 2 minutes. We'll be right back. right, welcome back, everyone. 3:22 right now, and Chicago's 43rd Ward Alderman has a new social media campaign, and it's connected to the game on Sunday, okay? So he is donating $1,000 to Lincoln Park Care for Friends Food Bank for each forced turnover by the Bears defense on Sunday, and we expect that they are going to come up with quite a few. So Alderperson Timmy Knutson is joining me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on to talk about this. Go Bears.
Go Bears. And is the money going to be going from your pockets?
No, that's the hope, because it'll be a sign of a good game. But, we partnered with our local restaurant, Wiener Circle, and we said, hey, let's try to spread some of this Chicago joy in a good way. And let's create something where every time the Bears defense forces a turnover, we give $1,000 to Care for Friends, which is an incredible local food bank. They do a lot of services beyond just their food bank, but in the 43rd Ward.
Tell me a little bit more. You mentioned what they do, what Care for Friends does, but what is their overall mission, and why did you decide on this particular, nonprofit as opposed to many others?
Yeah, so they're actually newly reopened in the 43rd Ward. They got a state grant several years ago to build a more community access space with a kind of holistic style food bank that anyone can go into any day. And while they're there, anyone who might be experiencing food insecurity can also connect with clinicians. They have a foot care clinic. They provide different services related to mental health, and they'll also connect people who would like to be connected to housing, as well as other services. So since Care for Friends reopened, we from our office have really been trying to pump them up. We did a food bank of our own, a food drive of our own, a few months ago for Care for Friends, where we not only filled a U-Haul, but we filled 5 SUVs in addition to the U-Haul, and then delivered all the goods to Care for Friends.
Wow. So they have a supporter in you. That is wonderful. And the work that you described seems really amazing and life-changing for so many people. The Wiener Circle, they're always up to something. Let's say that. and definitely through this Bear season, they have had a lot to take and use for their purposes of laughter and bringing people in for a good meal. So just tell me about going over to the Wiener Circle and saying like, hey, let's work together on this.
Yeah, I love it. And they know me there at the Wiener Circle.
That means they don't cuss at you?
What's that?
Does that mean they don't cuss at you?
Oh, they cuss me out, maybe worse. And the video that we spread kind of shows the demeanor we have between myself and the Wiener Circle of our office always bugging them, whether it relates to noise or parking, them giving me a hard time saying, hey, we call the shots. That's what they say in the video. But then also just leaning into that they, in a lot of ways, are the cultural spirit of the north side of Chicago. Mm-hmm. People from coast to coast know the Wiener Circle. When the Wiener Circle puts this incredible art and humor out there, people pay attention. I mean, they're the ones who really
And so go ahead and think up your next strategy. All right. Wonderful to be able to catch up with him real quick. And if you have not checked out their video, definitely go check out their video online. I think the Wiener Circle has it. And then also, of course, Alderperson Knutsen's office as well. Great to see people just kind of coming together to figure out new ways to give back in the community here. Care for Friends doing wonderful things to help people in their time of need. And in fact, when we come back, we're going to be speaking with another organization that's helping out a lot of young people in our area. And as we get ready for MLK Day, they have a wonderful program and an unveiling that they're going to be talking about next. It's 3:28. Stick with us 2 minutes and we'll be right back with that. .331 right now, and on Monday we will celebrate MLK Day as a country, looking back on a man whose impact has reverberated throughout generations in such a positive way, and someone that young people during all of those years can look up to and say, look what he was able to do. Look at the power of one person to create change. Susanna Wickham is the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Chicago that's always looking after kids throughout our area and teaching them those lessons and so much more. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Anita. So great to see you.
Great to see you as well. And listen, we so appreciate you taking time out. T-minus 30 minutes before your big unveiling that's going to be happening. Tell us a little bit about what you all are doing in your celebration today.
Sure. Well, I'm actually at our Dr. King Club, and this club has an incredible legacy. And this building has been here since 1953 and was renamed in honor of Dr. King in 1969, the year after his death. And the kids that come to this club in East Garfield Park, they always learn about his legacy, the history, and also the message of hope. And so today we have a very special day because the Blackhawks have been doing murals as part of our 10-year partnership at all of our clubs. And today they will unveil this very special mural that is vibrant and full of life on the exterior of this club, in honor of this partnership where they're teaching all of our kids floor hockey, and they're teaching them ice skating and inviting them to games. And so it's a really wonderful way that we have partnered with one of the greatest teams in the country to ensure that our kids have access to fun and opportunity and learning.
Yeah, the Blackhawks, amazing organization. And I'd like you to talk a little bit more about why partnering with an NHL team does really expand kids' minds who might not know much about hockey or that particular league.
Sure. I mean, hockey, everybody knows it's an expensive sport to pursue. It is expensive to get the equipment and to go ice skating. And our kids are fortunate because the partnership pays for everything. It pays for the instruction, it pays for the equipment, and they get to practice at the Fifth Third Arena where the team practices and really have this exposure to a sport they may not otherwise have the opportunity to get exposed to. And the idea is that hockey is for everybody, just like everything is for everybody. And so we love to create opportunities for our kids to get exposed to things that they might not otherwise see.
Yeah, it really is a part of the whole, as you mentioned there. Tell us about some of the other things that kids can take part in through the Boys and Girls Clubs here in Chicago.
Well, it's really incredible. And I think many people, unless you've actually gone to a club, you wouldn't know this, but we have academic offerings. We do help with homework. We have leadership programs here. So kind of like student councils where kids can rise up and have achievements, and that culminates in an event called Youth of the Year, which I know you've participated in.
I love it.
I know it's coming up. We would love to have you join us again. And but then also we have sports leagues. We have all sorts of enrichment. So arts programs, science programs, field trips, exposure to opportunity. And we also have a lot of fun here. You know, we've had quite a few Bears players visit us over the last few months. We've had DJ Moore come through, Jalen Johnson, TJ Edwards, and they do special things with the kids. And we create these special memories at the clubs because the idea is that kids have a place to come after school that is full of positive experiences, enrichment, and opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And maybe dig a little deeper into why that's so important in Chicago. And, you know, obviously with what I do for a living, we see kids that end up in a lot of circumstances that maybe something like a Boys and Girls Club could prevent.
That's true. Well, we know that there are a lot of kids and teens that are at risk of gangs, violence. And so we want to give them not just a place to go after school, but also a positive alternative to so many of the things that are out there on the streets. And it really is about creating access and opportunity and hope for a future. You know, maybe a kid has college aspirations, but would be the first in their family to go to college. Like I was. My sister and I were the first generation to go to college. And when you have support and people who are rooting for you and people who help you study and learn, that can make a huge difference in your future.
Today will be a big day, and I'm going to circle back around to the specifics of what's going to be happening today in a moment. But are there some other things that you all are already getting ready for that are coming up, or you know, some campaigns that people can participate in right now?
Sure. Well, we have things going on all the time. And right now we're planning for spring break, summer camp. We, in addition to being an after-school program, we offer an 8-week summer camp, which is 5 days a week. And for many parents, working parents, and parents who need support, we are the best place to send their kids in the summer. So we have ongoing preparations for all of those things. And we're always working on adding more programs. We're building right now in what we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks. We're building an art space that is spectacular in one of our clubs on the south side. And so we have some really cool things in the works that you will be hearing about in the coming weeks and months.
Really cool things in the works, and those can be made easier to bring to kids throughout the area with more people's help. Talk about how people can help you all's mission.
Oh, I love you for asking that question. So you can go to bgcc.org and you can see more about what we do. But really, if you're someone who lives in Chicago and you want Chicago to be a better city and you want to ensure that everyone who lives here has opportunity and has a chance to have a wonderful life, then we are the organization for you. And I would invite people to look on our website, sign up for our newsletter, come to our events, and learn about how you can get involved.
Okay, walk me through what the kids are going to experience today, like how the program is laid out for today.
Yes, so we are going to do the official unveiling. We have some speeches, some remarks, food and drink for the kids. We have basketball games. Also, there's going to be a staff versus kids basketball game, which should be interesting. I won't be playing, but what's interesting is the kids selected what they would do today. We have a young man, a 10-year-old boy, who gave a speech this morning at an MLK oratory competition. And so he'll be delivering his impassioned speech about the legacy of Dr. King and just fun. Basketball is important here because this club has a big basketball legacy. In fact, Isaiah Thomas is an alum of this particular team. So yes, it's really popular here, and when the kids get to decide what we do, that's what we do.
It makes it that much easier, yeah, and better for the kids, and they become even more invested in it. Susanna, always great speaking with you. Thank you for what you do for our youth in this area, and continue to shine in your new role.
Thanks for saying that, Anita. I love seeing you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll talk again soon. It's about 3:40, everyone. We're going to take a quick break. It's about 3:40 again, so give us 2 minutes and we'll be right back. We're getting ready for our final conversation of the day. And, as we approach our final conversation here, we were just talking about youth and how youth can benefit from after-school activities, positive places to go when they are out of the school walls and not at home yet. And the Boys and Girls Club, wonderful outlets for kids in so many different ways. But what about when they're in school? There are a lot of questions about different things that are being brought into schools these days. And in Denver, they have announced that starting this week, they are blocking students' access to ChatGPT. Now listen, we hear about ChatGPT all the time. The benefits, the drawbacks, and we're seeing how it can be used in different spaces, in different ways. So you would imagine that this is going to be one of those issues that more and more school districts are going to have to take up in the days and weeks, possibly months and years to come. So give us 2 minutes again. We'll be back with more, including that conversation. We're going to bring in the deputy superintendent there of Denver Public Schools. All right, welcome back, everyone. 3:42 right now. And before we went to break, I mentioned a new move for Denver Public Schools that really is going to have people across the country looking at it and wondering if maybe they need to take the same precautions essentially here, announcing that starting this week they are blocking students' access to ChatGPT on school-issued devices and the district's Wi-Fi network because of concerns about things like artificial intelligence, chatbots, new features like that. You know, if you think back to like this time yesterday, we were talking about kids on certain new apps that are making connections with adults and all of the things that can go wrong with that, the new lawsuits that have been filed. Well, this might put a wedge in some of that from actually happening, at least on school time. All right. So let's bring in the Denver Public Schools Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Tony Smith, to talk a little bit about the move that they have made and how that can kind of reverberate throughout the country. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, we certainly appreciate this conversation, and I think more and more school districts are going to have it as like all kids, you know, have all of these devices. So tell me how you all came to this decision.
Yeah, great question. We were being proactive around the scheduled releases of some of the features on ChatGPT, and then really questioned if that's really good for our students. So when you think about the chat room function, up to 20 individuals can participate, the level of anonymity that can be maintained through there, as well as the opportunity for adult content to be accessed by kids, we felt like this didn't align to our tenet of safe and welcoming environments, both in the physical and emotional states, but also as well as the digital landscape as well.
Yeah, there's the aspect of adult content, but then I also think about like the levels that bullying goes to. And could go to during school time, especially with access to things like ChatGPT.
Yeah, you know, we looked at that and we said that's not what we want for our students. And so, you know, nationwide there have been a number of lawsuits and unfortunate accidents with artificial intelligence through suicide and self-harm. And we want to make sure that we're not exposing our students to those risk factors if we can avoid it. And so we were proactive in saying we don't feel this function is good for our kids, and it tamps down a lot of the academic aspects of their education as well. So we just said, you know what, instead of teetering back and forth, let's just get rid of it from our system.
Yeah. Go into a little bit more detail about the academic effect as well.
Yeah. So, you know, in the context of AI, they're doing a lot of work for you. And we want to make sure that this is a tool that is supplemental and not supplanting. And so we don't want kids to use this in place of their critical thinking. We don't want kids to use this as a cheat code. We want their authentic brains to be engaged in the learning and to be connected to the learning, rather than using a chat bot or using chat GPT to breeze through it. We want them to have the experience of actual learning and being challenged in a way that is void of technology.
You know, difficult questions come from this because, you know, I wonder about like how hard it is to regulate technology during school time when technology is just so pervasive in our societal lives right now.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that. Our kids currently in elementary and secondary schools are digital natives. They know nothing else but this technology and are fast adapters of it. And we as adults have an obligation to teach them how to use these tools responsibly, to monitor their usage, and to intervene where needed. And based on this new function, we didn't feel equipped. And so until we get to that place, we're going to suspend the use of this function. But to your point, we do have an obligation, and education is key in teaching digital citizenship and the ability to use and support this technology in a way that betters your life as a tool, again, that is supplemental, not supplanting.
Yeah, is it kind of like like whack-a-mole right now when it comes to technology and trying to you know, protect but also teach kids?
Yeah, I think it's at the speed that the world changes, and we understand that technology is a fast-moving product. But again, in the context of Denver Public Schools, we think being thoughtful, being strategic, and being prepared is the best avenue to move forward and use this technology in a very clear and consistent way. And let me also clarify, we have AI as a function of our system. We use Magic School AI, and many of our platforms, our digital platforms, use underlying AI systems that we monitor, that we have data privacy agreements with, that we can be really clear on the what and the how. This particular one provided by ChatGPT has none of those pieces in place, and we didn't feel comfortable with that particular venue to be used by our students.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I'm going to ask you two parts in terms of the reception of this. What has the reception been like from parents first?
A lot of positive feedback. They said, thank you. We want our kids to learn how to read books. We don't want them cheating. We don't want them using AI to supplement their critical thinking. They were really thankful to us for doing this. Because also, again, as I said before, one of our tenets is safe and welcoming environment, and we take that really serious. And we don't want to lose any kids or harm any kids by the unmonitored use of a platform that could potentially be harmful to them.
Yeah, and then the flip side would be how you know, how do students take this? Are they feeling like, you know, adults are like trying to take away everything that's cool before we really get to use it more? Like what are teens saying about this?
That right there was surprisingly about 50-50. Many of our kids said, okay, we get it. We understand it. Thank you. We hear you. And some of our kids were obviously upset with it. You know, one thing we know to be true about our youth is they're going to find a way if they want to do it. And they can access these platforms in their personal time, at their own devices, at home, under the supervision of their parents. What we're saying is when you come here, you don't have access to ChatGPT, and we're not going to use this platform. And we're not going to promote it in our educational process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I just think this is, so many other districts are going to have this same concern. Are you already getting phone calls from others who are asking like how you were able to do it or how you implement it?
Yeah, we were thoughtful in being proactive and talking to other districts around what they're thinking. Our executive director of technology, Dr. Richard Charles, reached out to many of the schools in the Council of Great City Schools, which Chicago is a part of, and asked, what are you doing? How are you thinking about this? What are some of the issues with AI that you're experiencing? And, you know, in collaboration with them, we felt like this was a move that not only Denver Public Schools will make, but also many districts around the country may also make as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't envy you all's position of having to, you know, try to not just react to things, but also like proactively work on things. But do you find that, you know, I mean, you all are having to kind of do that tango all the time?
It's the best practice, right? We want to be reactive, but I think the best place we can serve and support community and kids is proactively. And so getting ahead of trends, understanding where we need to go, having a vision and a plan allows us to be very proactive. And as I said, I keep reiterating safe and welcoming environments. And anything that goes against that, we want to make sure that we limit our kids' access to, because we have an obligation and a responsibility. And those promises that we made to our families and kids are sacred, and we want to make sure we honor those.
Well, we appreciate what you do on a regular basis to protect our kids, but then also to inform them, educate them. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show today as well. I'm sure there will be many, many more of these conversations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
All right, you take care. It's
Bye.
about 3:52, everyone. It is one of those things. I mean, I just can't even imagine being a leader of a school district right now with all of this technology out there. There are so many different discussions as to what's helpful, what's harmful for kids, what goes too far, what's not far enough, you know? What are the things that teach them the advancements that they're going to need in the general public as the world keeps spinning and more technology keeps coming out, but what are the things that make them more vulnerable to things falling through the cracks? Again, going back to that conversation that we had yesterday about a new lawsuit in our area regarding very popular apps that kids have access to. You know, you think like, oh, well, this technology is great. I'll allow my kid to have access to it, and then something horrible happens. Well, there's many discussions that are going to continue to be had as we just have more and more technology out there, and trying to figure out the most beneficial uses for all of it, especially for the youngest and most vulnerable of our citizens here in the U.S., which are our babies, our kids. And yes, that's even the kids who think they're already adults. But it's about 3:53, everybody. Let's take a quick break. We're going to take about 2 minutes here, and then we'll be back to close out the show. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:55 right now, just a few more minutes with you. So we're going to talk about a couple of things that will be big topics coming up in the 4 o'clock news. First and foremost, today a grand jury has returned an indictment against Michael McKee for the murders of Spencer and Monique Tippie. Now, if you recall those names, if any of them sound familiar to you, that is the Chicago man who is charged, now indicted, in the murder of his ex-wife and her husband, the dentist in Ohio. And so now we're seeing that he has been indicted here, charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder, 1 count of aggravated burglary, 2 counts of aggravated murder as well. And all counts include a 3-year firearm specification here for using a gun to commit aggravated murder. So a lot of people have been following along with that story across the country, as there were several days that, police were trying to figure out who committed this heinous act, finding this woman and her husband, this couple in their home dead, and finding out that it ended up having a Chicago connection here with a man who was a surgeon, in fact, from our area, home in Lincoln Park, who was working for a hospital in Rockford. And so there's a lot of connections to our area, to our state. Again, now Michael McKee has been indicted. We'll continue to follow up on that in the 4 o'clock news. You'll learn more information about that, as well as what's going on in Minnesota. I believe we have a picture here of protests that are taking place in that area, kind of the standoff that you've been seeing with protesters in the area and also federal authorities who are there. We apologize for any profane language or gestures that you might see, but it's been been a very contentious and tense situation in Minneapolis over the last week, or now 2 weeks, really. The first week, of course, we saw about 2,000 federal authorities who descended upon that area as a part of stepped up immigration efforts there. Within days, there was a woman who was killed at the hands of federal agents there. And then just this week, a second person was also shot by federal authorities in that area. Now, there are varying details as to the specifics of those shootings, but those are the general details of what's happened in this place where we have continued to see protest over the last 2 weeks here. So I do want to let you know that following the demonstrations that have been happening here and the federal agents who are there, it looks like they're kind of backing up into an area as we're speaking here. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety, the Minnesota National Guard, and their partner agencies here now are set to provide a public safety briefing ahead of weekend demonstrations that are expected to be happening there. Obviously, we're hoping that everyone will be safe. But again, they are holding a briefing later on this evening to go over some additional safety that they are adding to that area to prevent any other loss of life, as they are expecting larger protests over the weekend. And of course, we're expecting larger protests in our area as well. We'll see you back here on Monday, everybody, and we hope that it's Victory Monday by then. Have a good weekend.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at 4.
Right now at 4.